All right, so I'm going to do a quick lesson here on sketching lines for the laser cutter. So you can do this in Coreldraw, but if you want to have specific dimensions, it's a lot easier to draw this out in Fusion and then just export the sketches that you make to Coreldraw. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to make a simple scoop and just draw a rectangle here that's the bottom. Cardboard is about 0.15 inches thick. So I'm just going to extrude it so that I can visualize what this scoop is going to look like. And I'll give it a side here. So just a simple triangle. Okay, and then I can do the same thing to help kind of visualize this. I want to extrude it to that 0.15, and then just making sure that I get that bottom part too, because when you draw this sketch on the side of the extrusion, it kind of takes out that bottom part. So just make sure you select both pieces. And the big thing here is to make sure that you extrude this as a new body, because it'll default to join. And really what we want to do is preserve each sketch separately for the laser cutter, because you're cutting on flat surface, right? So it's 2D, even though we're making a three-dimensional scoop. Okay, so now what I'm doing here, I'm adding a plane that is a mid-plane. And again, this is just for helping with visualization. So I click on both these sides, it puts a plane in between the middle, and then I can mirror my triangle to the other side instead of having to redraw it again. And this just helps speed-wise, right? You could just redraw that same triangle with the same dimensions and extrude it, and it would come out the same way. Okay, so I have something that kind of looks like a scoop here. I'm going to do one more sketch. I'm going to click on the back of the triangle. And I want to draw a rectangle that goes from corner to corner, but in this bottom corner, there's nothing to click on. So I have to use my project tool to find that little corner point that I want to use for reference. And then I can draw my rectangle. So we'll start in the top corner where I started my sketch, and I can bring it down there, and then it snaps to. Okay, and then same thing, you're extruding that sketch. Make sure that you click on all the pieces, right, to get it to extrude out, and make sure that extrusion is a new body. Okay, you don't want to do a join, you want to do a new body. Okay, so now I have these 4 separate pieces, right? So if I look at my body list over here in the browser, I have the 3 sketches I drew. Okay, and then I also have the 4 pieces, or the 4 bodies that I extruded out. Okay, and when you send this to Coreldraw, you only need the sketches. You don't need the 3D model portion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the body tab, and I'm going to turn off the bodies, and I'm going to turn the sketches back on, just so you can kind of see what I'm working with here. Okay, and notice there on the back, it kind of compensates for the extrusion you did so that your thicknesses of cardboard match up. So all I'm going to do here is right click on my sketches, and I want to export the DXF. So the DXF is just the line that we drew in the sketch. Okay, I'm going to label these just so I know what they are. And you want to make sure that when you export these, that you're putting them in a folder on the computer, right? So down at the bottom here, I have it checked, saved to my computer in the downloads folder, so I know where it's at. And depending on how complicated your scoop is, you might have more than 3 sketches. Okay, so once I do that, I can open up Coreldraw, and the sheets of cardboard that we're using are 24 inches wide by 12 inches tall. Okay, so you can set your workspace up like that. And then you're just going to right click in the workspace and import the lines that we just exported from Fusion. Okay, so I have all 3 of them here. And then hit import, and you want to make sure your scaling is 1:1 so it matches what you drew. And then you just click to place these parts. Now, remember the laser is going to cut whatever line you have in here. So you may want to zoom in a little bit on some of these parts and clean up some of these lines that are overlapping each other. So to do that, you go into the cropping tool drop down and you click on virtual segment delete. And you're going to just click the parts that you don't need for your outer pieces. I got one over here. I don't want the laser to cut that line. Okay, so once you have all those, because I need 2 of these sides, I'm going to duplicate this. So you can't right click and copy and paste. When you import a DXF, the lines are all independent of each other. Okay, so if I like click on a line and I can move it independently like this, I don't want to do that. I want to move them all together. So the easiest way to do this is to just hit Control D to duplicate it. Okay, and then if you don't want these lines to move apart from each other, you can always hit the group button up here at the top, and then they move as one piece when you click on them. And then just organize them so that they don't waste a lot of material on the cardboard. Okay, and then we need to change these to the red cut line for the laser and make sure that it's hairline thickness. Okay, so this is the route you would take going from Fusion, importing these files in. If you're just going to draw in Coreldraw, you can draw a rectangle. You can come down here to the parallel dimension tool, and you can click and hold, draw some lines that tell you the dimension of these. Okay, or you can look up in the top left corner for dimensions. Okay, so when you click on a container like this, it gives you dimensions. You can manually move these, and then you notice how the measurement numbers change. So this is also another way that you can do it. It's just a little bit more clunky inside of Coreldraw to draw specifically size shapes, and then you don't get the 3D visualization too. But again, change this to red, hairline, and then delete the measurements because those will also get cut in the laser. Okay, so there's 2 different ways you can do this. Have fun making your scoop.